Well, you're not going to,
No.
understand you're not going to seek
No.
the election.
And I've been kicking this around for the last year, but, it's not unknown that I've been saying that I'm not going to run. John pointed out many times that I've said before that I was not going to run, but this is the real deal. 25 years of service to the city as mayor, 4 years as a city council member. I'm approaching 29 years of service to the community. Why now? Why not run again? I've had people say, why don't you run again? Why don't you run one more time? And I said, here's the deal. My wife retired 5 years ago. I've got 6 grandkids. 2 of them will be in high school next year. They're growing up pretty fast. 3 of them live here. 3 live somewhere else. The opportunity for the city is really pretty good right now. We're financially in pretty good shape. We've got our 5-year capital improvement program in place. We're doing our comprehensive plan, the 2030 plan. I'm going to have some of my staff members who will be retiring over the next few years, and those are people that I've hired and brought into the system and worked very diligently for the city. And I think it's an opportunity for someone else to select who they would want in those particular positions over the next few years. I think it's going to be good. The flood really did more damage to me than I thought. I was worn out, tired after that. I don't know if I want to get calls in the middle of the night, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I think it's a good time for someone else to move into position.
You mentioned the flood. That was,
That was a long time. That was, 110 straight days of intense work that had to be done by the city. 110 days of being there at 7 o'clock in the morning and sometimes going home, sometimes getting called in the middle of the night, knowing that we had 39,000 people that we were evacuation for. It takes its toll after so long.
And now you're how old, man?
65.
You're 65.
Yeah.
And your wife, you mentioned, has been retired for several years.
Mm-hmm.
So that also kind of.
Yep.
And a lot's happened in Bluffs in your time there.
I go back.
Proud of, I guess.
Well, I go back, and in those 4 years of being the city council member, there were a lot of changes that were good. It really kind of set the stage for the future. And then I left, and then running for mayor, I said, one of the things that I found out is that probably the most positive that happened to me is that you need to listen to people, and you need to have people engaged. You can put all those accomplishments that happened to be under while I was mayor, but it wasn't me or somebody else. It was we wanted to change the community. I remember going to neighborhood meetings back in the late 80s, 88, 89, walk in the neighborhoods and ask them, what is it that you like about Council Bluffs, dislike, what is it we need to do? And every neighborhood was a little different, but still the theme was pretty much the same. Some people didn't feel good about themselves where they lived. They felt a little bit negative. Our infrastructure was not in very good shape. Our economic development wasn't what it should have been. And so anyway, we just started building that, and by getting input from people and kind of moving groups of people together, we were able to do some things that were really positive. And, you can go through all the things that have been done to change the community. I think one of the highlights is we passed the 1-cent sales tax so we can start working on our infrastructure. We've separated our storm sewer from our sanitary. We've got a street and sewer plant. Our sewer treatment plant has been, the infrastructure of the city has been improved. The infill housing projects. We started out with 10 homes, and all of a sudden now we're at 400. The type of living that you can have today job opportunities have changed. You know, there's more jobs, more opportunities that open up the door for people, and you know, recreation is up. We got 40 miles of bike trails. We're going to open up a new park that nobody thought we could ever build. You know, the Bob Carey Bridge was a cooperative effort between Iowa and Nebraska, Omaha, and Council Bluffs. Back to the River was another program. But you know, it's been more of a cooperative thing, that it's not about me, it's about we, and that's how we really change the community, I think, for the positive.
So a lot of things have really, a lot of great things have happened then.
Yeah, I mean, you look out the window, I mean, this building wasn't here when,
That's right.
you know, I mean, you look down the street and see what's happened to 100 Block, you know, the mall was closed, it was gone. We were able to work with an outside developer to get that up in place, and now we look at it, it's very functional, pays taxes, and has people work there.
I suppose the mall of the Bluffs, I'm sure, is kind of a disappointment maybe. Or...
Well, it was a positive when it started, because you go back to when it really was built, and that was in '85, and we negotiated with the people, and they were told, I still remember this, the developer said, well, we were told we can't do it in Council Bluffs because you have to protect them all downtown. And we said, no, that's not true at all. That piece of property sat empty for so many years, and that was a positive. That really changed our retail sales in Council Bluffs dramatically, because downtown had closed. Most people in western Iowa, where Council Bluffs had driven to Omaha to do their shopping, this opened it up. Was it a disappointment to see what happens with it? Yes. But, you know, time's gone on.
Talk about when you ran, can you imagine in 1988 that you'd be sitting here still mayor?
No.
25 years later?
No. Yeah, that wasn't, you know, again, I think because we're non-political, we're non-Democrat, we're non-Republican, we don't run by party, no one's been involved in party politics. It's kind of been more of an administrative position than a political position. And politics only is a place because you have to be elected. So when I looked at it in '88, I thought, you know, well, the first term was 2. And I thought if I get through that first term, I could maybe get another term in, and obviously it continued to grow from there. I always said every time I ran, well, there'd be one more thing I'd like to get done, so I'd like to stay. No, that was never in the long-term plan.
But as you mentioned, there was always kind of something, one more thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So does that mean you've done everything you want to do?
No. No, it doesn't. I mean, I really would like to see a new police station. You know, we need to get that in. I'd like to see the completion of the Humane Society is completed. That's still on the books. The interstate is something that we took back to Washington, D.C. in the state in 1994. And now we're in the second phase of it. But you're seeing it start to develop. But those are some things I'd like to see get, you know, at least get started here this year. What's going to dictate the next mayor? You know, I think it's going to have to be someone that understands the community, because we're changing. You know, we're changing whether we believe it or not. You know, I mean, we've got different factions of people, different types of people. And I look back at what we did in 1994 on our comprehensive plan, but we went out in the neighborhoods and in the schools and asked people to give their input. Now we're doing the 2030 plan. You know, we have committees, all new people. Nobody from 1994 is on any of those committees. They're all brand new people. It's not about politics. It's not about raising money. It's about understanding the community and how you deliver services. And what are those services going to be? You know, when I got elected or whatever, I think we'd have a skateboard park in downtown Council Bluffs where we'd have 40 miles of bike paths. You know, or we'd have two of our swimming pools that changed from a regular dive in the water pool into now a pool that you ease yourself in and they have water features. You know, those were driven by the people and the market. And those will continue to grow. You know, what they will be, I don't know. I can't foresee the future. I don't have any plans. I've had people talk to me about running for governor, about running for senator, I've had people talk to me about running for board of supervisor, you know, but that's not in my game plan right now. That's not what I plan on doing. I don't want to go home and just retire. I'd like to be able to do some things. I think it was a series of things. I mean, if you look at, you know, what we were able to accomplish as a community, I don't know if there was any one high point. It was just a series of things. I'm really proud of, you know, obviously the sanitary and storm sewers are separated and we're moving along our merry way. I'm pretty proud of that because that was something that the community said we had to do. I'm really happy with the recreation complex. We didn't have a facility like that. The Mid-America Center, we don't have a spot in Southwest Iowa that we can have events and do things at that location. You know, obviously, when we opened up the two casinos, for example, you know, to have that many hotels and motels and the number of jobs created, and not a dime came out of the city taxpayers' dollars. Everything was paid for by the developer, by the casinos. And a lot of people forget that.
So that turned out to be a good decision by the city. I mean,
Yeah.
to bring them in.
Yeah, it was the best thing that we could do. And it wasn't, when you get 9 proposals back and you look at the best of those 9, and we selected, number 1 was Harvey's and number 2 was Ameristar. And when we went to the Gaming Commission and they said, okay, Gaming Commission said, you're going to get 2. These are the ones you get, Harvey's and Ameristar. Both of them, obviously, because they were good quality development.
So we talked about, if that's the high point, then I think that would probably be, what's the low point?
Well, you know, that's always interesting. Was there everything low? I mean, you know, obviously the tornado of '88 was a nightmare. I was in office for 6 months. We had a tornado that said you could never have a tornado in Council Bluffs because it always broke up over the river and they always came from the southwest. Well, they went over the bridge and hit us. We lost communication. The 911 center lost communication. We had a lot of problems that we had to face in the first 4 or 5 hours. We had police officers with cameras showing us what the damage was. You know, we didn't have any loss of life that was really from the tornado. We had some injuries. We had a lot of loss of property and problems that happened. That was difficult. Being just in the job, and then obviously the flood was another devastating period of time for the community because it was an unknown. You know, when you sit there and you develop a plan for 39,000 people to be evacuated in different areas of the city, then you look at the number of 7 schools were in that area. You had a number of businesses that would be, you know, devastated by this. But that was pretty difficult because you know, most floods come up and then they go down, and then you deal with them after they're gone. We had a flood stage, or above flood stage, reaching the 36 something, and there really wasn't anything you could do. You just kind of held on. You know, we lost pumps. Our pump stations failed. We had 3 or 4 of them that went out. We were concerned about different areas, different times of the year. You know, I remember Memorial Day, Alan and I, Steve Carmichael, looking at the area, and we said, and Alan turned to me and said, we better open the EOC room because we're going to be in a lot of trouble. We had to turn off electricity in that area. 4th of July, sitting there and watching one of our pump stations just disintegrate in hours. Dealing with the Corps of Engineers when, you know, they said this is what we're going to have to do to make it work. And then just living through that whole summer was difficult. It went into the fall. You know, and you know what you did at your house and the frustration and you're always edge as a homeowner in those areas. You know, my mom, I was there every day checking her something up, making sure it was working. And then add that to your own frustration of yourself, and then add it thinking that you got 39,000 people you're going to have to move. You know, putting boats on fire trucks to make sure they get in, making sure that every public works person had a light vest. You know, it was just, but it was so darn hot, making sure that we didn't have people that dehydrated, got sick, National Guard, you know, state and feds. That was a tough moment. But on the positive side, in both cases, the tornado was one thing that really kind of brought a lot of people together. All the help that everybody brought in, not only from the city, but from Omaha County. Everybody came in and helped clean up the mess during the flood. We had, you know, we had to rechange how we thought things. Tweeter, Twit, Facebook, see employees that, you know, it was the work that they did and how they stayed on it all the time, and they were, you know, it was really kind of a nice time.
And of course, those were, you know, kind of things beyond anybody's control, you know, what happened. Was there any one thing, though, that you kind of yourself, I mean, just kind of wanted to see that somehow just didn't?
Well, there's been some economic development things that happened. We were close on a couple of companies that just didn't work, you know, and I wish they'd be here, you know, but they didn't. Still a little, you know, the MAC is one that, you know, I mean, when we built that thing was real active, and not that it's not active today, but it, you know, it hasn't. I just think it could be more than it is, and will be more in the future. It hasn't gone as well as I thought, but on the same token, it gives us an opportunity to do things we've never had before. But it's kind of, you know, I look at it and I go, wow, you know, what our expectations are, and where it's gone isn't quite where I'm at. But it's not, it's still an asset.
But it's not, you don't think it's been as, you know,
I think it's been a positive. It's kind of nice. I went to the Mercy Heritage dinner the other night. It's really nice to have 700 people sitting in a room in Council Bluffs, Iowa. You're not crowded. You got space. You got parking. You know, you go to the high school graduation down there. It's a location that everybody can get in and out of. It's, you know, there's a lot of positive things there. Now, the frustrating part is that, you know, when we built that, maybe we should have done things a little bit differently. You know, should we do this? Should we do that? Kind of hard to, you know, should we build ice on there now? You got facilities all over the metropolitan area. They keep building them, you know, and sometimes, you know, there's only so much pie. And if you get a piece of the pie, that's fine. When you start getting the crumbs, that's when you get in trouble. And we're not going to be in that position.
but you assume there's going to be more people now that will.
I would assume there always are. First time I ran, I think there were like 12 or something like that. Now, for the next mayor or for this administration, I think you've got some really good, you know, I think the city council's pretty strong. I think they're diversified enough to make some tough decisions. You know, you look at our budgeting, we're in pretty good shape right now. I just had a Moody's call this morning on our rating, again, real positive, which wasn't positive in '88. We've got a capital improvement program put together for the next 5 years. Our interstate's moving. We're really pretty good shape throughout the system. I remember going to a meeting in Omaha shortly after the bridge was built, and this lady said, well, when are you going to build something on your side of the river? And I said, well, we do it a little bit different in Council Bluffs. We're going to make sure our sewers are separated for the safety and the well-being of people, instead of building a park to make us look good.
Talk about that maybe a little. I mean, over the years, the last 25 years, there's been a little bit of contention at times between you maybe Mayor Dobb or whoever we want to talk about over there, and how, it's gotta be kind of difficult to live in, people, you know, I think they think we live in their shadow anyway, but I mean,
That,
is that one of the?
that was the most difficult thing I had to deal. There were two things that we had to deal with that I thought we as a community had. Number one, we live in the Omaha metro area. We're overshadowed by Omaha news. All you hear about is Nebraska, Nebraska, Nebraska. And we found out from people that they kind of felt, you know, bad about themselves because they weren't part of Omaha. And trying to work through that has taken a lot of time and effort to get people. I remember when I first got elected, and I go to a Rotary Club meeting, and they want to know who in the hell I was and what county, you know, what's going to change in Council Bluffs. Now I get invited to talk to the meetings, and all of a sudden it's a little bit different. You know, they want to hear what's going on and what we're doing, and we are part of the metropolitan area. So that's been a big positive. I've been through, I think, 8 mayors in Omaha, and I think, you know, the respect that we've gained respect in the Omaha market. Now, same way in Des Moines. You know, I heard that no, Des Moines doesn't care about Council Bluffs because we're over there. Well, part of the problem is that we never got over there. So we're a little bit better known now in Iowa. You know, we're a lot more positive in the state. I mean, to be honest with you, we send a lot of money to Des Moines. I mean, between our gas tax and gaming revenue and sales tax, you know, we're pretty good. Per capita, we probably send more money to the state house than any other city in the area. Because, you know, it doesn't take much. And being in a metropolitan area, the number of people from Omaha and Nebraska that come in our area to buy gas or to shop or go to the casino or sort of eat is much more positive today than it was 25 years ago.
You have any idea what it's going to feel like that last day or anything?
Well, you know, I'm sure it'll be, you know, I was just looking at my office yesterday. All the stuff I have in there is accumulated over the years. Where am I going to put it? And I'm sure there'll be interesting times to walk out the door after doing it for 25 years, walking in the same door and going out. But you know, it's you know, you don't put, it'd be like retiring from here. Some people run out the door and some people walk out the door.
You'll be walking, or?
I'll be walking hopefully in January. So.
Not for a second.